From the industry level view to a kind of a set of, go ahead, get a presentation will come in a minute. We invited MJ Courchesne, who is a member of our rights committee and works at Griffin Publishing Consultant, to share some of the examples of day-to-day interactions that you have that where you feel like we need help. And you're going to talk for a little bit. We're going to sit and then have a conversation about how to change that reality.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Thanks also again to BISG for having me here to be with all of you, live and in person. I've been a face on the box with a lot of you for a long time, so it's nice to be in the really real world. I am one of these unicorns that's out there. My company, Griffin Publishing Consulting, handles inbound and outbound rights and permissions for independent publishers anywhere that need some help. So I've worked with large publishers, I've worked with small publishers, I've got clients that are in education publishing space, trade, all over the place. So I've seen it from both sides and I've done it from both sides. And so what I'm going to talk about is something that'll be familiar to, I'm sure, many of you here and out there online, what some of these potential pain points might be, and some thoughts on hopefully where we can go from here. But so some of it's not really going to be a surprise. So go from there, and it worked. Yay! So the first slide here is we're talking about granting rights. So someone is asking for something, granting rights, and the ideal here is that the request comes in complete and you know everything about what somebody wants to do and what it is, and identifying the title and being able to figure out then how it's going to be used, the formats, the territories, languages, all of that stuff. Details about the prospective product or what is going to happen with it, TV, film, even all of that in there too. All of those details are there. You also have a full contact name of not only the person you're interacting with on the other side, but who might ultimately end up be signing that contract when you get to the end of that road. And you have, most importantly, and this is probably my biggest pain point, and many of you might agree, is having ample lead time to get this deal done. The research part, the negotiation, and getting everything tied up in a pretty little bow. I see a lot of nods, so I don't think I'm lying here. So then, hopefully, we can move on to the reality. The requestor, whoever that is supplying incomplete detail, in this case, about a request. You've only got the title, which in many cases, and as Sebastian pointed out, there's, sometimes if this is really early on in the development of a product, maybe there isn't an ISBN yet. Maybe it is just a title, but maybe you also, it would be helpful if you had an author, something like that too. But, the most complete information as possible. The potential usage is also incomplete. So the project is sort of a concept phase, and they're just seeing if they can get the rights to something. We don't quite know yet what this is going to look like. We think there's going to be a big book and then there's going to be a workbook, if it's like on the education side, or we think there's going to be this, but we're not really sure. So it's a little bit wishy-washy, which doesn't help if then you need to go and obviously figure out if you have those rights to grant, right? Mm-hmm. So it becomes a little bit difficult that way. There's also the big pain point in not actually knowing who's going to go and produce this thing. Do we have the publisher? Do we have do we have a producer? Do we have any of this information yet? Is this really going to be a real thing, even if we don't quite know what it looks like yet? Is it moving in a direction to reality or not? And other missing information that basically can help the decision point. It's also on the granting side, then it becomes an issue when you then not only don't have complete information, but you cannot find the information that you need to be able to know that you can even grant this. Because, as discussed, maybe there's only a worksheet, a spreadsheet somewhere that contains the rights information. There really isn't a database. Or perhaps the contracts have never been digitized, so you cannot go and find the details in the contract itself to figure out what is, what is going to be available to license out. And that is really, from my perspective, that is also one of the very painful points, is that if you don't have a contract that was written well to begin with, then you really don't know where you can go from here when somebody's interested in the property. It's very exciting when someone's interested in your property, but if you don't know what you have, kind of hard to act on it. And of course, we're all super busy people, so we have a lot of other things vying for our time. And maybe sometimes if you are sitting on both sides of the fence like I am, you might not have enough time to dedicate to one thing or another. When I was in one publishing house handling both sides of that coin, it becomes very difficult to juggle those responsibilities, and you're looking for maybe the opportunities that might have the best income potential. And so you're going to move forward with those instead. And unfortunately then, on the other side, which I'm going to get to in a minute, that silence becomes worrisome because you haven't gotten your answers. So moving on to then that other side of that coin, hopefully. There we are. So you're trying to obtain these rights. And the ideal situation, of course, is having this clear roadmap for this project. You know all of the things. You know the source title, you know the information about that. You know the information about, who is actually producing the product, whether it's another publisher or a producer or a studio or something like that. You know information about all of the rights holder, maybe the rights holder's website actually provides you some information that you need with regard to whether they have the rights that you need, that kind of thing, and who to contact and how to get things done. You have ample time. Again, you're able to really get things moving along, and the rights holder is able to adhere to promised response times. So if they're not distracted by too many other things, they actually can come back to you in a few weeks, as their website might say. From my perspective as well, sitting on both sides, a lot of times what I've seen is one of the pain points is actually not hearing back from that rights holder who you think is the rights holder, that they actually do have the rights. Because that's my first question. Do you have these rights that I'm asking you for? If you don't, I need to find out who does so I can move along. And sometimes because of internal system issues, internal availability of that knowledge, you're not able to answer that question. And then the other side, there's a me. So I'm sitting on both sides of the coin, but the me that's sitting there waiting for this information is waiting. And then we find out that we don't have the rights and we have to figure out who does. Whew, now we're starting on the clock again. And that time is ticking by. This is not great. So, but ideally, all this stuff smooths right around. And our reality, of course, is that the requester doesn't provide all of the information that you need to know. You don't know what the title is, or, one of my favorite things, my time when I worked as a bookseller at Barnes & Noble, was having customers walk into the store and ask for the blue book. I would like to get the blue book, please, that I saw on TV today. Okay, sure. Did Oprah happen to mention it? If so, then I really do know what that book is. Otherwise, we need more information. Then you have to pull, have more of a conversation back and forth on email, sometimes phone, If I have phone numbers of people, I'm calling them to try and get that information so that we can move this along a little bit more quickly. But sometimes we don't have that information. My other favorite one, one of my favorite things is when the lead time is too short. Having a client that says, well, we want to publish the book in December, and they're reaching out to me in November. Like, ooh, okay, well, maybe we can get this done, but I'm not going to promise that to you. We'll do what we can. The other thing is having those clients or having your requester married to the content that they really want to use. And absolutely, we have to use this or otherwise the whole project is sunk. Well, it would be better if perhaps you had an alternate, or you can work with some other options, because if it's possible, if they don't have the rights, or if they say no, which they also could do, then what are you going to do? So there's this pain point there as well. And, you know, going through, if you end up not getting in all of the information you need back from the rights holder, maybe they don't control all of the rights. And again, not having that insight in your internal mechanisms, whether it's on your contract system or rights system, if you have one. A lot of us do not. It would be great, lovely world if we did. But basically, if you do not know that you don't control all of the rights for a particular request, it might not seem to be that much of an issue to you, but if the requester is interested in worldwide and you only have US, but you take a while, you're not able to answer them quickly, and you finally come back to them and tell them, oh, well, worldwide is held by somebody else. That becomes a stumbling block, and then that also adds time to getting this project completed. And then in very rare cases, but it does sometimes happen, that you actually don't get any of that additional information or the referral information until after the request for the rights that a particular party has completes that part of their request. Well, we can give you US, and let us know if you want this or not. I can't, because I still need to know about the UK or something like that. And if I cannot get that information and need to go and try and figure out who that rights holder is on my own, then it, again, adds time to that request, adds pain points on both sides, because the rights holder wants to get the deal done, and the other party wants to get their project complete. So we all end up very sad. So again, none of these points are really tales out of school. We've all experienced them, or many of us have in this room. Again, I keep seeing heads nodding, so I know I'm not alone, and this is the other reason why I like these kinds of organizational meetings, because we find out that we rights people are not alone when we're in these pursuits. So that's our reality on both sides of the coin, and our needs for internal systems of knowledge so that we can answer questions, whether it is for a request that comes into us or something that we need to go and pursue outbound, as well as that better communication. So some shining day in the future, hopefully a lot of these pain points will be cleared up for us all. So, yeah.
I'm going to invite you to have a seat in the comfy chair, because I think you need therapy. So we have a couple of questions for you. One is, how prevalent are these problems?
Well, it's something that I've experienced. I've been in the industry now for about 27 years. And so it's something that pretty much every project, there is one of those pain points that I will find for one particular piece of information, piece of rights that I'm trying to sell or pursue. So it's something that comes up on a constant basis.
Yeah, so the things that Sebastian was describing in his talk about kind of the paper chase is common for you.
Yes, very common, very common.
And is it trending better, worse, sideways?
I think it trends better, especially when you are then educating, from my side, educating the client about what we need to do and how we need to solve these things. And then all of a sudden a light bulb will go on and they realize, oh, well, maybe we should do something about this. Yeah, let's do it. And then it becomes better. So I think it will get better, and it'll also be better, especially when we have, better systems, better ways of doing things and accomplishing our work, because then everybody will be happy because they're all getting more money and more exposure for their product.
Are you also facing a volume challenge? I mean, are you seeing more deals or more requests for deals these days? So it's like a cat chasing its tail.
It can be. There are still lulls, of course. I think we all see lulls in the business now and then. But yeah, I think more people now are realizing that rights is where it's at. I had a mentor for the longest time, every mickle makes muckle kind of thing, where basically if they can get a little bit more out of this product in another format or something like that, well, this is good for us. And I'm like, yes, well, that's the first step. Let's keep going with that. So.
And what do you think we need to do as an industry? I mean, because the motivation here is at the committee and at BISG and internationally, globally, organizations like Editor. What do we need to be doing to fix this for you?
I think, and also to echo some of what Sebastian said too, is for small businesses and for small publishers, independent publishers, but also larger publishers too, being able to find those systems that will help us answer the questions that we need to answer, and then also being able to provide the information to others to get these questions done. From my perspective, I don't quite understand, if you don't want to share the information all about your book, that's fine, but if you can at least articulate in a more public arena, if it's available, to tell people if you have rights to something, then I can answer that question and move on to the next much more quickly. It's no offense to the publisher who I think has the rights. Honestly, I'll be back with another one pretty soon. But let's go and articulate the information of what is actually available so that we can get things done in a more efficient manner.
So have structure for the information so that it's readily apparent whether or not you're talking to the right people.
Yes, I think that would be very helpful. And I know things changed. All of the businesses changed. Having been in the industry for so long, the faces are different. Some of the faces go to a different house, and I'm like, oh, you're here now, okay. But having that consistency or the ability to reach out to someone to be able to answer these questions efficiently is the most important thing to sort of keep the rights business flowing, really, and help us all. And
then these chairs are comfortable, aren't they?
Yeah, they are pretty good. I mean,
you should come up and try them after.
Yeah.
So my last question for you is, do you have a glimmer of hope story for us? Something that at least kind of makes us feel like this is, if not solvable, then at least in our grasp?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. One of the publishers that I've worked with most recently was brought on board specifically to help them with their systems and figure out what rights they have and what rights they don't. They're not entirely there, but during my time with them, I've gotten them into a contract management system. It's not a publishing contract management system, but I've managed to sort of work the system so that it provides that information about rights, so it's much more accessible, at least to the internal staff that are handling permissions and rights, what is available and what isn't. Again, it's not a rights management system. It's never been designed to be that way. It will never be a rights management system, but it answers some important questions to add into that efficiency. And that's for a small publisher that has, a significant number of SKUs. And I think that's the number one thing, is if you are able to solve an internal issue, then it helps the external business as well. So.
Thanks. Does anybody else want to do an intervention with MJ?
Or does anybody else need one? Yes, we all need
Then I'll ask Brooke, how about for online folks? I imagine this story resonates.
I'm speaking truthiness to the people.
Right. I mean, one thing I just wanted to throw out before we move to Maurice and Paul is that BISG did research in 2021, led by Bill Rosenblatt at Giant Steps, to look at the ROI of investments in rights management solutions. And they weren't specific to any vendor or provider. and often the returns were measured in months, and very, very frequently in just shy a little bit over a year. So it does pay back quickly because it
Yes.
allows you to both consolidate your information, but to scale it over
Right.
time.
There's two ways to solve something. You either throw a bunch more people at the problem, or you throw technology at it to help efficiency, for efficiency's sake. And actually, that report is something that I do pull out and put in front of my clients going, see, there's stuff that can help you. It's possible. What do you think? But I think a lot of times the bit of nervousness is, of course, the outlay of money to go and get something done. But I think I'm firmly on the side of IT to help me solve an issue rather than throwing more people at it, because more people doesn't necessarily mean you can find that contract from 1985 that's in a warehouse, in a file cabinet somewhere that hasn't been digitized. So,
And for the folks who are here who have not read that report, it's only $49 US on the BISG website, but because you came to this event or attended online, we'll get you a discount code where you can get it for free for a limited time. Thank you very much for this insight, and
Thank you, Brian.
we'll turn this over to Paul and to Maurice.
yeah.